Hi, I'm Jacob.
And I'm Jessica.
Welcome to Cluedunnit, the podcast where we make wild guesses about fake TV crimes.
Without any clues, context, or apparently accuracy. All right, let's find out.
Who was right?
Who was wrong?
And who is dead? So for anything we're about to say to make sense to anyone, I think we need to tell people what the resonant show is for Shakespeare and Hathaway that we're doing this episode.
Sure. It is William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Which Jessica famously has put a moratorium on seeing.
Yeah, I really don't need to see it again.
Right. She has even gone so far as to put an appeal into the podcast adjudication board that we should not do this episode.
Right. Well, you said... This play, all you need to do is say the words.
I agree. Like if you
90%. Okay, fine.
Okay, so this is one of the last plays I ever read of William Shakespeare. And part of the reason why it's the last play I ever read is because I saw it so many times, like starting in high school at speech and debate.
What?
Yeah, you'd get like speech and debate, like comedic interpretation. You'd get like these high school kids standing up and like doing the rude mechanical scene for
But there are 4 people in that
That's
scene.
That's why it's a good choice for like the speech and debate crews. So you can just be like, look at all the different characters and voices I can do while I'm still wearing a blue blazer.
One person?
One person would do all 4.
In a blue blazer.
Usually in a blue blazer. Usually you wore a sports coat and a tie. Yes, maybe it was black or blue, but yes.
So Pyramus and Thisbe and the whole death scene is played by one person.
This is my hand, a chink in the wall. And yes, all of that.
This lantern is the moon. This dog, my dog.
Yes. Yeah. But it would work. It would work. I would sit there and we would all be laughing. So yes,
Really?
I think that this is like, yes, 80%. If you can say the words and know what the words mean, you're 80% there and it's going to be great.
No. I saw the RSC do this show. It was terrible. I was
oh my gosh,
paying so much attention to the color changers. This was a long time ago. And so color changers were on a scroll and they would have to heat up before they actually changed anything. So they would have to call the cue before the scene was over.
Sure.
And so I was sitting down front and I saw the guy who was playing Oberon look down at me when I was like, oh God, here we go. Next scene. It was like, as it like heated up. Yeah. And then sure enough, scene couplet, ending scene couplet and then new scene. Oh, so bad. So slow. Beautiful, actually. It was a beautifully designed production, and I think the set designer was actually somebody famous, but so awful. So the Erotic Heritage Museum was another place that we saw it, and that was terrible.
Yes, that was legit terrible.
That really turned me off. And then I did it in high school. I mean, it was a high school production. We did our best. I played a fairy. That was like the worst acting job. Like so terrible.
It wasn't a transcendental experience with Robert Sean Leonard as Puck going through everything?
No. Robert Sean Leonard. In
Dead Poets Society reference.
Society. Sorry. Is that he does a Midsummer Night's Dream in that?
Yeah, he goes against his father's wishes and is in Midsummer Night's Dream.
I think I watched that movie and was like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that.
You shouldn't have done that.
You should have listened to your dad just for that part.
Just for this play. Done any other play, but this play, no.
Maybe you do King Lear or Hamlet. Then I'd be like, yeah, your dad should suck it. You should be an actor. It's fine. And
you have completely blocked out the version that we saw at Utah Shakespeare Festival.
I guess I have, because you say that there was a really beautiful costume.
It
like
was
Titania
gorgeous.
was wearing a really
costume
beautiful...
it was gorgeous. It was a good show.
Were the theatrical, were the mechanicals fun at the end?
Everybody seemed to enjoy it. It was a fun show.
Yeah, I guess there's also an element where you kind of want even more at the end there, but then you're also kind of tired after watching the whole thing. Even when they cut out all of Aegeus's speeches, which are so long, that guy, whoever played that part originally, must have been
I get all the lines.
Amazing, yeah, or that must have been the time where everyone was like, "Oranges, get your oranges, spiced oranges." And everyone was like, "Yeah, I'll take one.
I'll take one." He's going to talk for at least another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that the Podcast Adjudication Board had no pity on you. You're still doing this episode.
No, it's going to be fine
It's gonna
because
be
we're going to
great.
see Sebastian dressed up as Puck.
Yes.
I've seen the pictures. Yeah, so I think it will be fun.
It'll be great. It'll be great. So why don't you tell us, so as you may have inferred from us talking about all these different characters, there is a large cast in this one. Jessica, tell us about the cast.
Oh, okay. So the cast, we're going to have our regular 4 mainstays, which is Frank Hathaway and Luella Shakespeare, and then Patrick Walsh McBride playing Sebastian, and Amber Aga playing D.I. Marlowe. And then the guest stars. So this is funny. We've got one actress. She's 25 years old now. And this was the last TV or film show she ever has done.
So this is her last credit.
This is her last credit.
So she's 25 now. She was probably this was 2018, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's 7 years. So she would have been 18. So, good for her. She's in college. She went to college.
Yeah.
She was like, I don't need this acting thing. I'm going to use this and pay for college.
Yeah.
Good job. Good for her.
She's probably a lawyer or something now.
God bless. Good job.
Yeah. Then we have 3 actors for whom this was their first TV role, actually.
Oh, okay.
Including Marcus Rutherford, who we know and enjoy in Wheel of Time. He plays Perrin, the wolf guy.
The wolf guy, yes.
Tom Lewis, who plays Dimitri Erasmus in this episode, and this was his first TV film role. And since then, he has been in Discovery of Witches, Gentleman Jack, and he voices a character on Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And then Shaniqua Akwak, who plays Helen Naderson in this episode. And this was her first TV role right out of drama school. And she has been on a bunch of fun shows, including a show called Wolf, which everybody should check out. And then there are 2 people who have a lot of experience in TV who are in this episode. One is Anna Wilson-Jones. She has 92 TV credits, including, like Father Brown, Grantchester, Holby City, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Her first role was on The Bill in 1994.
Okay.
Also, Sean Gleason, who plays Ron Greenvale.
Oberon.
Yeah, probably. Oh, yeah, probably. One of his first credits was also The Bill in 1996.
That's practically like the UK's Law and Order.
Yeah. It's true.
You gotta cut your teeth somewhere.
Gotta say, Sean Gleason also has 835 episodes of Doctors.
Oh, my Lord.
So a week.
Yeah.
That's a joke. That's not true.
It's at least 2 years.
Yeah. Also 119 episodes of EastEnders.
That's a week.
Yeah. And he has done a bunch of 10-episode arcs. I'm used to people having 2-episode arcs or 6 episodes. I've never seen somebody with 10-episode arcs, but he was on 10 episodes of Father Brown, 10 episodes of Holby City, and 10 episodes of Casualty. Isn't that fun? I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting. Then we've got Darren Evans, who plays a character named Spider, and he plays a lot of gawky, tall, white guys in shows. And he is currently, I think, he voices a character on Gallivant. And he is in a movie directed by Richard Ayoade called Submarine. I didn't even know that Richard Ayoade directed.
I didn't know that he did that either. I mean, we loved him in IT Crowd. Is it The Traveling Man?
Yeah,
or what?
Yeah. So
hilarious
I'm super
comic
excited
actor.
to go look that up. Submarine, if you want to check it out. And then there is an actor, Ashay Akhtar, and he has a lot of prestige shows in his background, in his credits, including 3 episodes of Shakespeare Hathaway, actually.
Ooh.
So he was in the premiere and the pilot episode of Shakespeare Hathaway. He's in this one, and then he's also in an episode in season 2. He's also in Dark Materials. Great long monologue in there. He's on The Great for 2 episodes. He's on Sherlock. He's on a show called Man Like Mobeen. Yeah, Man Like Mobeen is a comedy on BBC TV centered on Muslim characters. And he also guest stars on Murder in Provence and Doctors. His first role was on a TV movie, not The Bill.
Oh, okay.
And then we have David Cromarty.
Okay.
Who has 67 uncredited credits,
Aw,
including
David.
playing a roadie in this episode. an NPC roadie. And then also...
he has 60 NPC credits.
Yes. Also, NPCs like town person and pet mortician.
Oh. Well, David, we're rooting for you. We're rooting for you.
I hope you get a speaking role.
Yeah,
just get that line, one
just
line.
Just get that line and get in there and do it.
Get into SAG or whatever they call it.
What is the union
Britain.
over there?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Union. Yeah.
Union.
So those are all the guest stars. Excited to see them all in this episode, which, by the way, is called Ill Met by Moonlight.
Ah, okay.
And in it, so by the way, I did not do pre-cheating. I totally ignored the very long log line that was on IMDb, and I went to bbc.co.uk for this log line, which is extremely short and has like almost zero details.
God bless. Good.
Frank and Lou must recover a precious jewel and a rebellious teenager before midnight strikes at Lady Beatty's end of summer ball. So not even midsummer, end of summer ball.
End of summer
what?
ball. Yeah, I don't know, but like I'm betting that teenager that they have to get is the girl who never has any more credits after this episode.
Oh,
I bet she plays the teenager.
Probably disappears. Yeah. So we're going to have to find, this is going to be maybe more of a mystery than a murder.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
okay,
great. We know what I like the BBC because at least now we know what the crime is and when to stop.
Yes, yeah. Directing this episode is Piotr Shapopiak.
Yep.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back, Peter. We still can't pronounce your name.
Piotr, sorry, yeah. And then this final episode of the season is written by Kit Lampert.
I cry foul. See, Jude Tyndall created. See, this is it. I'm Kit. Kit, we need to get in touch with you, and we need to make sure that you actually exist. Kit, are you okay? Are you okay, Kit? Just send us a picture of holding up today's newspaper or something.
Do you think he's been stabbed in a bar fight of some sort?
I don't know.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to your script.
Kit.
Quote unquote
Kit.
Yeah.
I hope that Jude and Kit are actually having a pint somewhere and just laughing hysterically and coming up with the next Sister Boniface mystery together.
Oh, for sure.
That's what I hope.
Absolutely. Or maybe even a Father Brown.
Maybe even a Father Brown.
Yes. So this has a lot of trivia, but it's really a lot of it in IMDb is about the names. Like
Ron for Oberon.
Yeah, it's a lot of names. And not just people's names or characters' names.
Oh.
It's also some other naming that's happened. And so maybe we should just, make some hash marks for whenever we see something that's a Midsummer Night's Dream.
Whenever it resonates.
Yeah. I didn't read all the trivia. I just sort of glanced over it.
You are really trying hard to stick to the rules. You really want to show the Podcast Adjudication Board that you are ready to be a member.
Yes, yeah. I am trying to be ethical
by
guesser. Yeah.
Jessica Hurd, the ethical guesser.
Yeah. And I would love to also come up with some other things that you could guess on, though, but I don't have anything like that. Maybe we could just guess. How many, do you want to take the over-under?
Sure. What's the point?
Okay.
Set the point for me.
I'm going to set the point at 5.
So 5 special names of places or people. Do we want to say people, just places or just people?
We can combine it.
Then if it's 5 for combined, I'm taking the over.
Well, yeah, because we have 8 guest stars.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I'm going to say 10.
10. I think that's a good point. That's where I would have gone for that too. Ooh, do I want the over or the under on that? You know what? I'm doing it. I'm going for the over.
Okay. You're taking the over. All right. So we'll see.
All right. Well, let's go find out what happens in the intro here.
We'll see you soon.
Jessica, I love the BBC logline. It was perfect.
Because it's so short?
Well, it's so short, but it also told us exactly what the crime was going to be and what to do on it. So, all we get, there's no hemming or hawing or watching more or do we stop here? We know what it's going to be. There's going to be, they need to find this kid and find whatever was stolen. And that's what the teaser set up.
Yes, and it was teaser, and then
that's
credit sequence.
The crime happened in the teaser.
The title sequence, and we were like, okay, I guess we stop here because we had a sad teenager on the phone, and then we had a crime.
Yeah. Point being, we got nothing. And I love it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a good old-fashioned guess-a-rooney here.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call it, but all we've got is guesses, is what I'm saying on this.
Wild guesses.
Wild guesses. Yes, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
We are back to our wild guesses on this.
My original one was there's a sign maker who's making one of those brass signs to go in the front of this
the
old
plaque is like the
historical
whole-
manse. Yeah. And he saw the jewelry that was in this fancy house, and then he just decided to come and steal it. And then I was like, no, hold on.
That seems a little obvious. Okay, so while Jessica went full mechanical on this, and she has since changed her mind.
Yes.
I also went very directly to Midsummer Night's Dream. Only I think so. Again, like this isn't. It's never a 1-to-1 thing. It's just a resonant. It is what is resonating with this. I think they are doing all. So let's talk what actually happened in this thing. So yes, the first scene, our teenager Mia, our 18-year-old who never acts again. Again, good job getting that lawyer. Like what well deserved.
I mean, she could be finishing college right now in some. It could be an acting field. We don't know.
But we're proud of you regardless. Good
Yes.
job. In any event, she is sitting on her bed in her room, crying, upset, telling somebody, you kind of think that it's her boyfriend, telling somebody not to come over because she doesn't want to deal with him, slams the phone down, and is very upset, looks over and sees a little fairy doll next to her bed, and then you cut. And then you go to a dark scene, a lady in bed. There's a smash of glass. The woman wakes up and cries out for Mia, who we're assuming is the girl we saw in the previous scene. She's like, Mia, doesn't hear anything, and then gets up and goes downstairs.
The fancy marble, curling spiral staircase.
And everything is fancy.
Beautiful, fancy manse.
Yeah, she's got she's wearing her robe as she's looking through all this fanciness. And she
antiques.
Antiques and art and just lovely things to look at. And she comes upon, what's that called? It's not really, is it a credenza? It's not a credenza.
It's not really a credenza, but it's
like an
glass
antique display.
case.
It's like a glass display case, and it's been smashed. There is a pillow inside of it. And you are like, clearly whatever is supposed to be on the pillow is missing. It's like perfect size for a tiara, but she clutches her neck. She like puts her hand on her neck. So I think it's a necklace that got stolen. And then right next to it is the same fairy doll that was in the daughter's room.
Yeah. And at first she clutches her neck like, oh no. And she looks like sad and just kind of a little distraught. And it doesn't feel like jewelry sadness. Like this, I'm sad the jewelry is gone. This makes me distraught. But it feels like there's some other emotional resonance going on there. But then when she looks over and sees the doll,
she gets pissed.
She's pissed. She's so angry.
Yeah.
So what the heck?
Yes. So that is where we're at. And so this is why, like, you went full mechanicals. I'm going full Lovers in the Forest.
Yeah.
Mashed up with the fairies.
Yeah.
So I think that one of her friends, maybe her boyfriend, is convinced her as a prank, or maybe not as a prank. Maybe it's hey, we can steal this and this will finance our new life together. We just have to escape through the forest, and this is how we can pay for our flat in London and we can be together. So her and her boyfriend have kind of done this robbery and are escaping into the forest, and maybe Spider or somebody is following after them, or they've got their other pals around them as well. So so I think they're both the lovers and the fairies kind of getting lost. Because Puck, he's puckish. That's where the phrase comes from. He's puckish.
Yeah.
He's kind of a trickster.
So you think there's a Puck person?
I think there's a Puck person. That's maybe the boyfriend that she doesn't want to have come over because she just can't deal with him. Because let's face it, Puck is a lot.
Oh, that's right. Because you're conflating the fairies with the lovers.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly. We're mashing them all up together.
Yeah.
So I think they are off on the lam, and that he has convinced her to steal this thing so that they can have a life together, and she can be out from under the thumb of her horrible mother, or her mother or father, or somebody who's telling her to go to school or something. Which, by the way, as we've completely said, no, go to school. It's a good thing.
Yeah. And you're right. She's dark haired, and Anna Wilson-Jones plays that woman who awakes and comes downstairs and is saying, Mia. Her character's name is Lady Tanya Beatty.
Right.
Titania.
Yes.
So that's one.
Oh, right. Yep. There you go. There's one. There's at least one.
And Mia is probably short for Hermia.
Yes, that's 2.
I didn't get that, so that's 2.
I didn't get that either, but that's
Okay.
2.
All
right, that's my guess, Heard. What have you got?
Well, I first I was thinking of that whole sign maker thing, but I'm going back on that. I'm coming up with something new. Okay, so here's the thing. I have been thinking a lot lately about the themes of denial and acceptance, or like
Jessica, this is not a therapy podcast.
Oh, okay, but like things in or sort of like plain sight, things that are in plain sight,
hiding in plain sight.
Yes, hiding in plain sight, right? And then I was thinking about this podcast that I listened to this week called The Retrospectors. They go back in history and they're like, this day in history, this blah 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 happened, and they had this. Yeah, they had this episode called The Queen's Soviet Spy. This was from November 14th. And in the show notes, it says, Sir Anthony Blunt, esteemed art historian and a favorite of the royal family, was publicly revealed as a Soviet spy on November 15th, 1979, when Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher confirmed he had been part of the Cambridge Five, a group of double agents who secretly passed sensitive information to the Soviet Union. Despite his confession, so revealed in 1979, right? Despite his confession to MI5 in 1964.
What?
He was allowed to continue his association with the royal household, working as a surveyor of the Queen's pictures until his retirement in 1972. The response in Parliament included disbelief and accusations of deliberate cover-ups to protect Blunt, eventually leading to his knighthood being rescinded. And they think that, or it's considered in history that his privilege facilitated his double dealing, his class facilitated this double dealing at the very highest levels of British society, because all 5 of them in the Cambridge Five were protected. And 2 of them, I mean, he was in the royal family as a Soviet spy, but 2 others in the Cambridge Five actually rose like really high through the ranks of British intelligence after the war. The British kind of wanted them around, and talking to some of the British, and MI5 wanted them to be speaking to the Soviets because Winston Churchill was really afraid of passing any information to the Soviets.
Now we're going. All right, bring it home. Home.
Okay. Anyway, the point is
you think a Russian spy stole this?
No. What I think is, so there's this guy, this character, this actor who I mentioned. He was on 835 episodes of Doctors and 119 episodes of EastEnders, played by Sean Gleason. He's playing a character, Ron Greenvale, or Oberon, right?
Yeah.
That's 3.
Yep.
I think he is going to be somebody of like privilege, class, that has been around this family of Lady Tanya for a long time, and they're going to know that he has a thievery in his background, but they're just going to be like, yeah, but we keep him around anyway. It's just fine. And
no, he's totally fine. He's one of us. He's
one of us because
but he's landed gentry. He's good for it.
Yeah. And so the mother lady, when we saw the scene in the cold open in the teaser where she is like clutching her neck and she's feeling sad. Oh no. And then she sees the fairy doll and she's getting angry, and we think, she probably is going to she's going to hire Shakespeare Hathaway to go after, this is my guess. She is going to hire Shakespeare Hathaway to go find her daughter, and she is assuming that the daughter and her boyfriends or the various young people that she is hanging out with have convinced her, or she has convinced them, or whatever. They're all in league to get a little gang
even though there's this
stealing this jewelry from her. And she's going to be pointing Shakespeare Hathaway like, find my daughter and you'll find this jewelry. That's what I think is going to happen. But all the time, Shakespeare and Hathaway are going to do all this research and they're going to interview, and then they're going to realize like, this is going to embarrass Frank, that it's just a bunch of kids in lovers quarrel and they're completely innocent and they're just running away. And it's this guy in the family household who did it.
So he planted the fairy there to get the mother off the scent and put it on the daughter.
That's my guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. I have one more twist to it, though. I'm going to change my guess a little bit here.
Okay.
I am going to guess. I don't think he actually did the crime. I like your idea of this person like doing all the redirects and everything on it. I'm betting that I think you're right. I think he was responsible for it. I think this wrong guy is responsible for it. I think this wrong guy is the one who stole it. But I think that he like manipulated the kids, like, because they're kids, they're dumb, and there's just like, I think he manipulated the kids and he had the kids steal it for him. So he's the mastermind and he's the one who wants it in the end. But I think he had the kids do it for him.
Okay.
And again, the whole like Oberon Puck like fairy relationship thing. So I think he's the mastermind and behind it all. But I think Puck and the kids actually did the stealing. That's what I think.
Okay. All right. Well, I think those are our guesses.
All right.
And if you want to learn more about this whole Soviet thing, they spell it out really well in The Imitation Game, that movie with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Wait a minute. We got to watch we got to listen to the retrospectors and watch The Imitation Game.
Well, it's a really good movie, and I think did he win the Oscar for that? Or he was definitely nominated for it. Yeah, a couple people were. And, you know, the guy, we watched that show called, was it Vienna Blood? Mm-hmm. The guy who is the lead in that, the young man, he is in Imitation Game as well with Benedict Cumberbatch. And so when I was watching the movie, I was like, this guy is super familiar. And I was like, oh, because we watched him for our podcast. Yeah. So I just talked about a podcast in a podcast.
Yeah.
Just like A Midsummer Night's Dream.
All right. That is great.
And a movie. I talked about a podcast and a movie inside another podcast.
Snake is truly eating its own tail. We'll go watch this and figure out who's right.
See you soon. All right. I won nothing. You won nothing.
That is not entirely true.
Oh.
Yes, that is not entirely true. So we both got it wrong on our guesses about what was happening. Turns out that Mia did in fact steal it, but she was not under the influence of Puck. And
that's true.
That is true. And Ron wasn't exactly the mastermind behind all of this, but he did have some influence in getting Mia to come with him.
He did?
He did. So here's the deal. Lady Bede, Thessaly. No, not Thessaly. She lived in Thessaly Hall.
Hall, right.
Her name was Tanya Bede. She did, in fact, like Titania, like Oberon, she did, in fact, have a thing for Ron. 20 years ago, they consummated their thing in the very first end of summer ball, and their consummation led to Mia. But Mia didn't know about this. Nobody knew about this because Tanya didn't tell anybody.
Because Tanya, Lady Tanya, was married to a man.
Sean, I think something like that. And then
I don't think it was Sean.
But she was married to somebody She was married to the Lord.
Yeah.
And so
And not meaning Jesus.
Yeah, not meaning Jesus, no. Married to the Lord of the Manor. Yes, Lord Bede. She was Lady Bede. But Lord Bede in fact did know because Lord Bede was quite gay.
Yes.
And Tanya was his beard for 20 years. So this like smoldering romance between Ron and Tanya has gone on for 20 years. Mia found out, did some DNA testing, and found out
without permission.
So her quote unquote father, died recently.
Yeah.
And on his deathbed told her that she wasn't his child. She was somebody else's child, and he didn't know who. And Mia noticed that Ron and Tanya had a thing for each other and some smoldering things. So she took some hair from his comb and took it to get DNA tested at a hospital.
Private hospital.
Which is when she found out that Ron was her dad, and she started arguing a lot more with her mother.
Yeah.
And so what she decided...
She felt she had been lied to.
Right. And Ron had decided, so 20 years on, nothing had happened. He decided he was no longer going to stick around and do these affairs for her. He was going to the house. This party, yes. You're right. Affairs would be a bad word. Or not a bad word necessarily.
In this context, it makes it difficult. It's confusing.
Yes, it's a confusing word. Yes,
a
confusing word. That is a better way to put it. A misguided word. In any event, he's going back to Spain. Mia decides that she's so angry at her mother for keeping this from her. She decides to steal the most priceless thing her mother has, which is this heart necklace what's it called? Love and Idleness?
Yes.
Yes, which is, for all of you clever listeners out there, you already know one thing that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
It's called Love and Idleness, but it turns out the necklace isn't worth anything. It's just paste. It was just priceless to Lady Tanya because Ron got it for her 20 years ago. So she is still in love with Ron. But meanwhile...
Love and Idleness is the name of the flower that the potion comes from in A Midsummer Night's Dream that Oberon tells Puck to go get in order to get Titania to fall in love with an ass and to, well, Puck puts it in the wrong lover's eyes.
Puts it in the wrong lover's eyes,
and so the wrong lovers fall in love with each other.
Right. In any event, so Mia decides she wants to go with Ron to Spain. Ron is like, I don't have any money to support you. She's like, well, I'll steal this necklace and hawk it for cash, and then I'll be able to pay my own way. When that doesn't work because it's worthless, she decides to up the ante a little bit and like blackmail Lady Tanya to give her 50,000 pounds, and then she'll just go with Ron anyways.
Yeah.
And Frank and Lou figure all of this out. And in the end, Ron and Tanya are reunited and Mia is happy and everybody's happy and there's a lovely little dance scene at the end.
Yes.
So,
end of season
dance. Couple things. One, don't get me wrong. I didn't win, but I wasn't completely wrong. Like Ron kind of was like, Ron, actually take that back. Ron wasn't the mastermind behind this at all, but he definitely had some knowledge that Mia didn't. Yeah. And Mia wasn't even like tricked into stealing it from Puck. No. She was behind it the whole way, all the time. So you're right. We were both completely wrong.
Yeah, there was no sign maker.
There was no sign maker at all. No. And there wasn't even a lot of mechanicals. There was definitely a lot of lovers. There was a lot of like Mia was dating Dimitri, but Helen was also in love with Dimitri.
Which is very much like the play.
Very much like the play. And yeah, and Dimitri wanted to marry Mia, but Mia didn't want to marry Dimitri. For a hot second, you thought maybe that Mia, like the other man in Mia's life was Ron, but that was just
and
a
then
thing.
We also thought that she was with Lee, our guy from Wheel of Time.
From Wheel of Time, but
which is a Lysander name.
Yes.
Like a derivative, sort
Derivative of Lysander.
But I thought that was interesting that his name is Lee, which is an L in Lysander.
Right.
But not at all like Lysander. And as it turns out, because we're spoiling everything, Mia never dated or wanted even or fell in love with or anything with Lysander.
He was just a convenient pawn in her game. Like
literally took the necklace to the pawnbrokers.
I wish I could claim credit for thinking that far ahead and making that joke. That just came out.
Well, here's another joke.
Hit me.
When Frank says to Sebastian, he's like giving Sebastian assignments, and then he says, so go to the pawn store.
Go to the pawn store.
And he says, oh, lucky me. He's like, no, the pawn brokers.
Yes, not the pawn store.
Because of the accident.
Yeah, don't go to the pawn store.
Yeah, pawn.
Go to the pawn store.
Yeah. Sebastian, I think he has 3 costumes in this
He
episode.
has at least 3 costumes in this episode. He's dressed up like a Roman centurion in the first bit.
Which was fantastic.
It's a great little physical bit. He's on the phone. He picks up the phone to make a call, and he has to lift up the little metal ear flap of his centurion helmet.
Yeah.
And then he puts it down when he gets off the phone.
Yeah.
Priceless.
Yeah.
So good.
And then later on, he goes to the pawn broker and
comes back wearing this coat with a nice fur collar on it.
But it's fake. It's fake,
he says, yes.
Yeah. He had to buy something in order to get the information.
To get the CCTV footage.
Oh, the footage. Right,
yes.
right. And then he has an incredible fairy costume because he's a cater waiter.
Yeah.
Server. Yeah.
So I'm going to take a step back from this because this
is... At the party.
Yes, at the party. At the end of summer party. Now, I get that the end of summer might be a little cool.
Oh, right.
I understand that. Even in global warming, it might be a little cool. This was clearly shot in the middle of winter.
Yeah, clearly.
Everything was dead. It was gloomy and rainy the whole time. And there's one scene where Frank and Luella are confronting Helen, Mia's best mate Helen, and she's talking to them, and her breath is fogging in the air. It is so cold.
Yeah.
This was, everything was super duper cold. They did a good job pretending it was summer.
I mean, if this was all filmed in order, this was at best filmed in February.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So, and this is the thing. Like when I was coming up with my ideas on this, it felt like a very Fagin-like, Dickensian, like Ron over here puppet mastering all the kids and everything like this to get the money on this. This was a much sweeter episode than a lot that we've seen.
Yes, it was. Like and even in the end, it seemed like Lou is sort of teasing Frank and trying to get him to get up and dance with her, and maybe there's like a will they, won't they kind of thing.
On Frank's end of things, it definitely seemed like he was looking at Luella in a new light and was like, oh no, maybe like as if there might be some kind of romantic attraction. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, Jessica.
Really?
Yes. I mean, I like the idea of them just being a good partner team with each other and kind of like the odd couple as opposed to... I like the odd couple versus the will they, won't they is what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. I like it too, but I feel like they have been edging. I feel like they've been edging on this from the very beginning. Because the first episode, she is in a wedding gown. She's supposed to get married, and then the guy turns out to be a con man.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like she's always, I mean, not that a woman needs to be with somebody, but she is
an incurable romantic.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't know that she needs, I mean, maybe this is just me looking at Frank being like, oh, Lou, you can do better. But Frank is pretty dang good. But I'm also, I don't, like I said, I don't know. It is less about Frank not being like good enough for her or attractive enough for her. And more just about the fact that like, I like their frickin' frack odd couple relationship. I don't know that we need to turn it into a romantic relationship.
No, yeah, I kind of agree.
So, but I will also say,
I like a will they, won't they, because it is a lot of tension.
Who doesn't? It is another way to add conflict and tension. I get it. I understand why they're doing that. But speaking of tension, there is one more thing that I'm sure our listeners are waiting for on pins and needles with bated breath.
Oh, the 10, yes. Did you win over under?
I won you did. Definitely won the over.
Yeah, you did. And
there was so much
this
joke about
show was chock full of Shakespeare.
Chock full of Shakespeare. For a 44-minute show based in the present day about private investigators, there were so many, like this really hewed close to Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yes.
Like the lovers were all like falling in love with each other and like going back and forth between who loved who. And even at the end, Ron, who is behind trying to get the money for like, or at least in cahoots with Mia to get the money, drugs Titania so that she can make a distraction so that Mia can pick up the money. Yeah. While she's like distracted with this potion, Frank has to put her into bed and she falls hard for Frank the jackass.
Yeah, because he's like belching and he has slurping his tea
all episode. I'm like, why are you like they were leaning hard into the physical comedy in this episode. I'm like, why are you doing this? And it's like, oh no, because he's the jackass. Like he hits his head going into Spider's boat twice.
Yes.
Like that's a recurring bit. So Spider, by the way, Spider is not one of the fairies. I mean, he's kind of named after Cobweb.
Yeah.
But he's not like one of them. He's not one of the mechanicals. He's not one of the stagehands setting up the party.
Well, he is kind of a mechanical because he is doing the cyber sleuthing for them.
Right. Okay.
And he helps them set up their earpieces so they can stay in touch.
Right. Even though they're in different rooms. Okay, fine. He's a little bit of a mechanical, but he's not with a Lee mechanical. He's not literally building this thing.
Yeah.
But yes, like Frank goes and visits him on the boat and like coming in and leaving, he hits his head.
Yeah.
So,
and you also made the point that Spider is
World Wide Web,
so he's a spider. Yeah. So
because he searches the dark web to find information about Mia's life.
Good job with the puns. Kit Jude.
Kit/Jude. We'll figure this out. We'll get to the bottom of this.
Yeah. And then there was also a quote from Romeo and Juliet, but soft what light through yonder breaks. Sebastian sees Lou and Frank standing on the balcony.
Another
having
little
a chat.
nod to the fact that maybe there's going to be something romantic going on between the two of them.
Of course, I didn't even think about that. The taxi that they come in on is the taxi company is named Touchtone.
Right. AJ, our guy from the first episode, and in the second season, he is the taxi driver. That is where.
And they
he keeps
reference
popping
him
up.
actually in other scenes without the actor.
Yes.
Frank gets out of the red car, but you never see the actor taxi
it's like,
driver.
thanks, AJ.
You're
AJ is the character's name.
Paid him. Hopefully he had another job at that time, and that's just why.
Right.
And then, oh, yes, I just said the necklace is named Love and Idleness, named after that flower. She is given a potion. She seduces Frank, a jackass. Lee is kind of like Lysander. Oh, at one point, Lou says, we're the dream team.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay.
There was also a couple different nods to All's Well That Ends Well.
There were, yeah.
They go to talk with Helen, Mia's best friend, and Helen is a rowing sculling teacher.
Is that called coxswain?
The
when
coxswain,
you're the leader.
No,
of the
well.
team?
I don't know exactly. I'm not sure if the coxswain is actually the captain or not. The coxswain is the person who sits in the back and does the cadence, stroke, 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 and steers.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if they're necessarily the captain.
Okay.
And Helen is definitely a teacher in this sense. Like she's definitely like teaching her team how to do this, and like as they're lifting their boat out of the water. But the boat is named Lady Rosolon. I forget.
It's not Rosalind.
It's not
but
Rosalind.
It's an Italian
it's the
take
Italian version of Rosalind. Rosolon, however you pronounce it. The boat is named that.
Yeah.
And then at the end, when Mia comes back and Ron is with her and Lady Bede is dancing with Ron, Lou, like Frank is like, maybe you could pay us, and Lou's like, it's okay, all's well that ends well. So there was the couple little. Because Lady Rosalind is from All's Well That Ends Well. So there's a couple little...
Lady Bede says, I owe you a debt of gratitude. And Frank says, your 10,000 would be fine. That was a fun line. So there was a lot of references here. It is a pretty dreamy ending. Oh, okay. I noticed something else, if I can talk about this. I haven't really talked to you about this before. This episode I wonder, are they trying to be kind of Shakespearean? Because they never say out loud that somebody had sex. They don't use the word sex. They don't even use the word gay. They don't use the word abortion. Just that she had a, she does termination.
Termination, yes, she does.
But you can tell that's meant to be a euphemism.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
She doesn't want to say that word out loud. They don't want to say, that they had sex. They don't even want to use the word love. When Lady Bede is talking to Ron finally, and she's saying, explaining her feelings, he tries to get her to say, are you in love with me? Is that what you're trying to say? And she's like, well, or he says, why did you do this? Yeah. But why did you do this? And she's like, well, I just thought that maybe, perhaps, and he says, perhaps it would rekindle things. And she says, perhaps. I mean, but she struggles with it so hard. There's so many like long pauses and like people just cannot get it out. When she talks about her husband, the dead Lord Bede, she says, he wasn't into me.
He wasn't into me. I wasn't his type.
I wasn't his type.
I was his beard. Yes.
I was his beard. And they say beard and not... well, he was gay. And so, like they're finding all these other ways of saying these things about sexuality and love. But then the final scene, the tag, is Helen in bed, and Spider is like, oh, good morning.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, good morning. She's still got her head on the pillow.
They don't say anything, but I should say he just kind of like wakes up.
I thought he says good morning.
Oh, maybe he does. I don't know.
And she says, oh, yeah, I thought she then replies back. And then in between her prone on the pillow and him sitting up straight, you see a third body wake up and look around like, where the hell am I? And who are you?
And it's Dimitri.
So all three of them are waking up.
Which is, again, like the lovers waking up in the forest, all confused as to what happened and who.
Yeah. What happened last night? Where am I? Yeah. So, but they can't use the words, and they all have to like work around it. Like they all struggle with trying to say, maybe do you think maybe she was pregnant and then she had a, and I made me wonder, like, is this trying to be a Shakespeare thing? Is this like nobody wants to say this on this use these words on a cozy mystery? Is it too blunt to say it? We need to be more poetic when we're talking about such things. And then I was also thinking about and Miranda, the show Miranda, the mother
Miranda.
who's always
always.
She always says the wrong things.
Yes.
Whispered. She doesn't want to make a big deal of. Well, our neighbors are lesbians. It's like, Mom, you've got that the other way around.
The other way around.
Our neighbors are lesbians. So silly. And so I was like, is this a British thing? Is this what we're trying to mimic in this cozy mystery? Is that
keep everything private?
Yes, it's private. We can't be. It's just too gauche, I guess, to like.
They're
use
British.
the words.
They don't overshare like us Americans do. Everything has to be kept inside. Let's talk about therapy, Brits.
It's Victorian.
Let's talk about emotional.
We can't call it the leg of the table. We have to call it a.
You're right. It's very. We have to cover up the legs of the table. Otherwise, people might think suggestive thoughts. That's a great name for a podcast. Suggestive thoughts. I'm Jacob. Welcome to Suggestive Thoughts.
That sounds like maybe there's hypnotism.
Welcome to my ASMR hypnotism podcast. Suggestive Thoughts.
Yeah.
You are going to stop smoking. You are a strong and confident person. You don't need to smoke.
There was another podcast in Retrospectors about hypnotism last week. This is so hilarious. I'm just going to mention a podcast within a podcast.
All of your retrospectors are just we're just all colliding right here.
I love it. Oh, and did you love the moment too when Sebastian purrs in his new coat from the pawnbrokers?
The pawnbroker, he like rubs his face against the fur and purrs on it. Sebastian is just the best.
He really is.
I wonder how long it took him to get into makeup for this show.
Oh my gosh.
The makeup and the costumes in this last bit, like it was clearly season finale. They had so many extras. They had so many extras in like ball gowns and sparkly things and everywhere. And they also had like not just extras in ball gowns, but like in addition to Sebastian being in makeup, they had lots of people in this elaborate makeup with like horns and face paints and masks and everything.
Yeah.
Like all the money went out into this episode.
Yeah. I will say, having done fancy dress background work or fancy dress extra work, that you wear your own dress. So they just call you up and say, are you available? Do you have an evening dress? Send us a picture right now. And then you go, oh, okay. And you like send them your fancy dress, every angle and smile. And then they go, yep, we want that one. And that you literally, your dress and yourself are hired for it. Not just like you, and they don't dress you unless you're in a certain era. And then they have to dress you and you have to go in for a fitting and it's even more expensive because they have to pay you for that extra day for the fitting. But yeah, those dresses they did not pay for.
Okay.
But it was lots of extras.
Yes. And as long as we're in Costume Corner, we do have to talk about Luella's dress.
Luella's dress, so pretty.
So beautiful at the end. So they managed to finagle their way, of course they do, into the fancy ball at the end of the episode. And yes, Luella's wearing this very beautiful dress. It's like cut higher in front with a kind of mock train in the back. It's a lovely dress. So again,
black with big pink flowers on it.
Yes.
She's still wearing like a jacket sweatery thing over it because guess what? It's not summer.
Guess what? It's February. Guess what? It's February and they're filming at night. Oh my gosh, that must have been so cold.
Oh yeah.
Because they were outdoors. Sure. So again, shout out to Claire Collins, the costumer on this, costume designer on this, and all the other episodes. Good job, Claire.
Yes.
Well done.
Yeah, agreed. My favorite line.
Yes, please.
I think of the whole series was actually delivered by Spider.
Okay.
They go to his houseboat and they're talking to him about, getting some spy gear so they can all keep in touch, stuff in their ears, their earpieces.
Yes.
So they can all talk to each other.
Discreet. We need to be in communication, but discreet.
And he says, okay, well, it'll cost you. And they're like, oh, well, we have money. We'll pay you. And he says, all right, well, I need to be there. And Lou says, well, can't you just teach us how to use it? And he says, yeah, but I've heard these types of balls are really epic and I don't get out much.
Yes. It was pretty perfect.
Yeah, it was an explanation. And then Lou and Frank give each other a great look. There were some great looks in this episode. I look forward to season 2 because I feel like there has been, I mean, it's always the first season of a show. You're trying to figure out, like, how serious do I do this? How meaningful are things supposed to be? How much is the comedy? And how far do I take my double takes? And I feel like they really started to nail it in this. And I was grateful for it, too, because it's always true that if somebody doesn't react to somebody doing something else, it's almost like, how are we supposed to feel about that?
Did it even happen?
Did that even happen? And so when Frank is slurping his tea, we all notice it, but we're like, well, I noticed that. Is that just a ha-ha joke? But then when Lou gives him a look like, oh my God, what are you doing? Or is just thinking that to herself.
Yeah.
You're
telegraphing
like,
it through all of her acting.
Yeah. Then we're all like, oh yeah, what is going on over there? He drinks tea. Just not out of a cup like that?
That's what I didn't understand. And I was waiting for him to talk about how this was great, like just good standard English breakfast as opposed to something scented like Earl Grey.
Yeah.
I wanted them to dip back to that joke, but...
hopefully we'll come back to that.
Yes, and hopefully we will come back to Shakespeare and Hathaway.
Hold on.
What?
That we didn't find a food that they ate in this episode. It was just the tea. Did they eat anything?
You may be right. Because I don't think they kept drinking at the party.
That's right.
They kept drinking, but I don't think they had a bite to eat. I think you're right. There was no food in this episode.
Yeah, it was just the tea.
Wow.
Oh, that's different.
That is different. I will also say, before you know what? I'm glad you stopped me from my transition.
Oh.
Because we also haven't given this any Christies yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I have to say, I love this episode. This was a great episode. But I'm kind of torn on how many Christies I should give it. I kind of feel like I want to give it only 3 because it hewed very close to Midsummer Night's Dream. On the other hand, it completely stumped us.
Yes.
But is that just because we know nothing and we were expecting it to be more? I don't know. What do you think? 3 or 7 or whatever else?
3, 7?
3 or 7. Like I said, I'm torn. I'm torn between 2 different polls here, but
7?
that's where I'm going.
Wow, that's so high.
You do whatever you want to do.
I don't think it's a 7.
Okay. Where do you think it is?
I don't think a lot of people were up to things. Pretty much only Mia was up to something.
It's true. Mia was really the only one doing anything on this.
I mean, Dimitri was going to propose, but...
Yeah, and we knew it was Mia from the beginning, and there weren't any curveballs thrown at us. In fact, the only reason we didn't guess Mia is because we expected there to be a curveball on this.
Yeah.
Like, the crime on this was very straight ahead. The backstory was where everything kind of came to be.
Yeah, and I mean, that's worth a couple Christies, but I don't feel like it was... So, yeah, I would say... I was going to say 4, but I feel like that's even too generous. So
I can stick with the 4. I
kind of would say 3.
3?
Actually.
All right, we'll go with 3. We'll give it 3 Christies.
Okay.
3 Christies it is. And 1 full season.
Yay!
Or series. Yes.
Series
so we have
of Shakespeare and Hathaway. We have private investigators.
I always forget the private investigators.
Yeah, me too.
In any event. But yes, we have finished series 1 of that. We're going to come back with 1 more episode before we take a break for the holidays. We're still kind of, boosting around a couple things of what we want to do next. But
there are so many shows.
But we will come up with a good one, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We really appreciate it.
And now we want to hear from you.
Tell us your guesses, your scores, and your suggestions for what shows we should watch next.
Go to our website, cluedunnitpodcast.com, or email us at cluedunnitpodcast@gmail.com.
Or find us on Instagram and Facebook at Cluedunnit Podcast, or on Twitter at Cluedunnit.
And if you like the podcast, please rate us and review us on Spotify or Apple Podcast to help us get the word out. And maybe you'll hear your review read on the show.
Want to be a Cluedunnit private investigator? Leave us a few bucks at cluedunnitpodcast.com and we'll send you a personalized, official Cluedunnit private investigator license.
officially approved by the totally fake Podcasting Adjudication Board in their secret headquarters in a mountain outside of Squamish.
We hope to hear from you soon, because watching TV
is always better with friends. Because, as you brought up a couple weeks ago, I made you give up all your guessing juice.
What? I don't remember
you
this
don't
at
remember
all.
this? You were
Turn me
like,
out,
you're taking all my guessing juice, and now I'm not going to be able to figure out the show.